Pick one in the mid. There you go. All right. It'll have company soon. I feel it.
No.
All right, we're recording. Here we go. We're live. Thanks for triggering my memory, Sam. Thank you. All right. You're like AP World's version of John Mulaney. All right.
Who's John?
No.
Who's John Mulaney?
You don't know John Mulaney is?
Who's John Mulaney?
All right.
From school today, look up John Mulaney.
No, just practice. All right. The New World Order. Here we go. This is Unit 9. This is the last unit. We have discussed the history of the world in greater detail than you've probably recognized, or maybe have ever thought you'd study in your entire life. We have gone through the end of the Cold War, so roughly 1991-ish. The Yugoslavian stuff ended in 96. Moving forward, we're looking at basically what comes next, what challenge faced this entire planet. It's a nice, happy way to end. All right. But there's good stuff in here. So here we go.
How we can combat our challenges.
Well, how we can do what we got to do what we need to do. All right. A lot of dudes in there. All right. Sorry, it's a police song. This is not playing nice. All right. Okay. So New World Order emerged after the Cold War with unchallenged American primacy. In other words, when the Cold War ends, we're on top. Stop. The focus is now on economic integration, globalization, and collective security. You need a computer? Notes? Oh, all right. Okay. All right. So there you go. All right.
What is it there after collective?
Security. What we may be witnessing is not just the end of the Cold War or the passing of a particular period of post-war history, but the end of history as such. That is the end point of mankind's ideological evolution and the universalization of Western liberal democracy as the final form of human government. And this comes from a book called The End of History. So what this author is postulating, is that history as we are used to studying and how we are used to approaching things is going to end. And now the history is going to be a truly global one with big things affecting many people. Yeah. Google Slides sucks. All right. All right. Sorry, I was bored last night. I decided to paint the world. Sorry.
Right on.
No, stop. No. Resurgent nationalism and religiosity, there's a word for you, and new security threats have also defined this new world order. So new nations that are allowed to develop, this is post-colonialism, those new nations. This is the end of the Soviet Union, those new nations. This is Balkanization. What was Yugoslavia is now 9 countries, those nations, as well as others that have not been recognized yet as states. Hi, Kurds, Palestinians. That was an interesting article, by the way, Sam. Oh, that reminds me. That was point worthy. I meant to do that when we got to it. Yeah,
Let's go, Sam.
Learning beyond classroom. Never a bad thing. All right. Make that more discernible. All right.
Bump this up 1,000.
Here. What is fourth period so? Like it's
13-2.
We're just down by 1,000, boys.
All right. Religiosity, the rise of fundamentalist religions in lots of places. not just Muslim religions, which tends to be where people go when they think of fundamental religions, and even a turn from religion is also, you can look at it that way, and then various terrorist threats, which we are all well versed. Don't worry about reading that. It's big. It's online. It'll be posted later this afternoon. Okay. Name the country.
Russia.
Doesn't it just look like it needs to be in a snow globe?
Yeah.
Like, that's so pretty. I'm sure it is in a snow globe. Yes, that's the Kremlin. All right.
Wait. Why is the Kremlin like a palace?
Because it was.
Oh, it was.
And there were czars. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it it looks Russian.
All right. Russia's emergence from the Cold War has seen a struggle. It has to adopt free market capitalism, to adopt democracy, and at the same time remain an authoritarian. Like, there's still that authoritarian thread that ties Russia together. And again, to give Russia a little grace. They only had like 3 years of capitalism ever in their life until the Cold War ended. So it's not as if they truly understand or embrace the mechanisms of capitalism, because as soon as they got on that little training wheeled bicycle, Lenin was like, no, and took the chain. Which, by the way, hold on a second. An open letter to, no, I'm kidding, to bicycles. Look, the new training bikes. Yeah. What is that?
Well, I had one of those. They were super fun because my driveway's down.
Okay, great. But how in the world does that help you ride a bike?
It doesn't.
What training?
No, have you seen the ones now with no chain? You just use your feet?
Oh, yeah, that's stupid.
Those-
All right. All right. It's
They're like no pedal bikes.
So it didn't help?
Well, I don't know.
maybe.
I
All right.
learned it
All right.
Campbell, do you know how to ride a bike now?
Yeah,
So
but
it did
I don't think that's
All right.
bad.
This is the guy who came after Gorbachev. Gorbachev was responsible for Glasnost and Perestroika and pretty much letting countries here have a little autonomy, but remember us, and no. This is Boris Yeltsin. Boris and Natasha. First president of the Russian Federation, or Russia, after the fall of the Soviet Union. His shock therapy resulted in corruption and economic failure. Corruption in Russia. What?
What is shock therapy?
I don't know, but it's in quotes. So,
I probably should get up. He's not even the best blue out.
no, the best Boris Becker.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Boris Becker is the best Boris.
Yeah, I'm trying to do this again, but he's not.
Boris Boom Boom Becker, tennis player, 80s and 90s, German.
Definitely not.
It's a type of economics.
Well, I'm sure it is, because it says it's a transition to capitalism. Yeah. I'm sure what it kind of is there's a form of economics, I think we talked about it here, I know we talked about it in the other class, corporatism, where fascists like it. Like, yes, you can own this company, but do it, but and I'm going to let you own this company, and then in return, you're going to support me and vote for me. That's corporatism. So you allow capitalism, you allow that sort of entrepreneurial free market stuff, you give them permission to have it, and in return, you hold it over their head. And you say, now, if you don't vote for me, I'll take away your company. So there's probably some of that. And there were probably people in the Politburo and in the inner circles of the Soviet Union who really weren't ready to just give it up, which tends to be something that happens when you have long-standing ideological forms of government. Or your 1917 to 1991. But now, I don't know. And there's parts of it. No, I mean, the oligarchs, very nice. I actually have a set of Russian nesting dolls, and the smallest one is Gorbachev. No, the biggest one is Gorbachev. The smallest one is Tsar Nicholas. Goes back to the Tsar. But anyway, I'll bring him in. My wife doesn't understand why I have him. All right. Couple of things. This is Russian male life expectancy. Under Gorbachev, 65. At the end of shock therapy in Russia, 57. So so I don't know what. I guess they worked hard, or they made them marry 2 women. I don't know, but their lives shortened by 8 years. Okay. I want to ask for your forgiveness that many of our dreams didn't come true, that what seemed to us to be as simple turned out painfully difficult. I ask forgiveness for the fact that I didn't justify some of the hopes of those people who believed. That with one stroke, one verse, we could jump from gray, stagnant, totalitarian past to a bright, rich, civilized future. I find it interesting that civilization and totalitarianism apparently cannot occupy the same space. I'm saying farewell. I want to say to every one of you, be happy. You deserve happiness. And that's his leaving. Oh, and you can't see the fine print, but at the time of his stepping down, his approval rating, that many. How people think, the percentage of people who think you're doing a good job. I don't think it ever got that low. It was in the 30s. Well, because he controls the polls. All right. Speaking of Putin, speaking of Vladimir, look at that. Waxing. Who just did that?
You seem like the kids are right bears.
See him yesterday yesterday he scored 7 goals in some old timers hockey game.
Yeah, look at this. He's got a chain too.
Vladimir Putin has dominated Russia since 2000. He was democratically elected the first time.
Wait. Hold up. Like, he actually voted him, like, oh, this would be a good thing.
Well, okay, but in 2000, that was 21 years ago.
That is scary.
You don't really know what kind of leader you have until you have them. Look, one of the dumbest claims any candidate can make, and we'll talk about president. One of the dumbest claims any presidential candidate can make, irrespective of side, I don't care, is I am more qualified. I know what it's like. I have what it takes to be president. That is garbage. Because until you step into that office, you have no idea what it's like to be president. I don't care if you were a governor. It doesn't matter. It's the president. Nobody is qualified to be president until they're president. So we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. In 2000, okay, he seems like a strong guy. He's got ideas I can get behind. Yes. And then, careful what you wish for. But again, history matters. Contextualization matters. Continuity matters. Russia has a history of authoritarian rulers. That's an easy word. There are facets about these types of rulers, authoritarian, that rulers like. The idea of being the authority. Most people who want to be in an executive position, almost all, I will go out on that far of a limb, have a very high opinion of themselves and their abilities. They are confident. Because I really don't want someone who's maybe to run my country. So they have, and part of that confidence is some of this. And so it's balancing that. It's also having a constitution and other branches in place that don't allow this to sort of take root. And that is difficult anyway. So there he is. Strapping. All right. The Vlad. Gosh, that is so memeable.
Yes.
Like just to, I don't have, but just to take this and crop it and then start putting faces on there.
They probably did.
I'm sure they have. I'm just like, that's so. There he is.
Sure.
Notice he's not a very tall man. Yeah, yeah, he's not like Lincoln tall. Kennedy. All right.
He's only 6'2".
Yeah,
So that dude's like.
that dude's like Tom Cruise,
Tom Cruise, like.
5'7", like
Is that a problem?
like Napoleonic. Not when you're a freshman. It's not a problem. All right.
Story just coming from our head.
Russia's loss of superpower status after the Cold War has led Putin to defy the United States, has led Putin to defy NATO, and he has been very expansionist in grabbing things like, oh, that's some nice Ukraine you got there.
What?
He marched into the Ukraine 5 years ago. Because part of the Ukraine sees himself as Russian, and part of the Ukraine sees himself as part of Europe and Ukraine. And you can imagine geographically that the Ukraine facing Russia sees himself as more Russian, and the Ukraine touching Europe is like, ooh, EU, yes, please.
What about like
It would. But the EU is an economic thing. It's not political. It's about trade. Sam!
so? So after the U.S. was collapsed, so did like the U.S. try to go in and like establish like capitalist government or not? Or were we involved?
Well, we never go in and try and manipulate countries overtly. Would you like some aid? Here are the strings. Not to mention the fact that, to remove all cynicism aside, these people right here have had enough of a sample size of communism over the last 50 years to decide on their own if they want it or not. And most of them are like, no. Now, but again, there are authoritarian rulers in these countries that liked what they received from the Soviet Union. So that's what these people have to battle.
Like what countries is that now? That like
Okay, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Poland. That's now all Germany. That's Czechia. That's Slovakia. That's Hungary. No, yeah, that's Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and then that is the former Yugoslavia, now cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 countries.
yeah.
Bosnia, Herzegovina, Croatia, Slovenia, Moldova, Moldova, and et al. Okay.
All of the above.
All right. The United States, as the world's sole superpower, even without the Avengers, has seen expanded role in world affairs. True. Encouraging democracy and capitalism on a global level. So to answer your question, Sam, sort of. Yes, they go in and like, look, I think this looks better on you. That's your color. We think you look hot in it. That kind of creepy stuff, all right? Oh, look, he's got a GoPro. All right, the Persian Gulf War, of which I am a veteran, only because I was in during the war. So, like, I don't make it, dude, I got a ribbon because I was in.
Did you ever fight?
Yes, against that mighty Iraqi Navy. Against what? There are four, what are those things called? There are 4 Zodiacs, 2 John boats, and a pontoon boat. Yeah, I think we're okay. All right.
Did you?
Did we win? Friends of ours did launch. I mean, they may or may not have launched Tomahawk missiles from their boats in Iraq. I can either confirm or deny, that.
So you did confirm that.
No, I do know that those missiles are neat. You can pick a window. You can target a window, and it'll hit a window. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Like, it's not like a hand grenade accuracy. It's like, I want the 12th window on the 3rd floor to the right. Boom. Now, the residual explosion would take care of all the other windows, but it'll go where you want it. All right. And again, the Persian Gulf represents the role, presents the role in this new world order without fear of another superpower. And there is something to be said for having another hegemony. There's your SAT, ACT, big brain word of the day. Look it up. If you have another hegemony, you're less likely to do this without consent. We did a lot of things from 1990 to now unilaterally without consent from the UN or other countries because we felt our interests were threatened. That's the rationale. We're not judging anything. We're looking at events. This was, in a way, kind of like my Vietnam, only from the standpoint of like, this is the first war I saw that America was in that I watched on TV. Like the first day of attacks, the news was there ahead of them. Waiting for, like, there are some things we as a people really don't need to know. There just are things that we don't need to know that what our government's doing. We definitely don't need to know where our troops are going, if for no other reason than for the sake of the troops who are going. So I remember sitting there on the beach, I was home on leave, watching it on one of the early '90s portable TVs. So yes, it was black and white and that big. That was back when there were bag phones. The first mobile phone was a bag, and it had an antenna, and the earpiece was connected like an old phone. Oh yeah, it was a big bag phone. All right.
My mom still has like the cigarette.
Yep. In 1990, Iraq's Saddam Hussein invaded neighboring Kuwait, right down here. An oil-rich nation on the Persian Gulf, claiming it was part of Iraq. Come on, we've seen this play out before. It's always been Iraq. So I don't know what these Kuwaiti people were thinking. Okay. All right. Okay. You're welcome. Remember, this all comes about post-World War I. It all comes about with the mandates after Germany loses. It's all England and French. And then think about what else is going on in this part of the world. They fought a decades-long war against Iran. They've been dealing with, there's the whole Israeli thing. If you haven't read the article Sam posted, read it. All right. These are countries who supported actions against Iraq. This action, we went to the UN and we got multinational support for. What was the rationale? Anybody remember why we went to war in Iraq? No. What they told us they're going to war in Iraq for? Well, to protect Kuwait, and then why did we go and remove and invade Iraq? What did they have? WMDs.
What?
Weapons of mass destruction. Oil. America has enough oil. Keeps costs down. We import it. Because oil doesn't drive your car. You have to refine oil into gasoline, and then it works. Oil from the ground is the black stuff, crude oil. That's why it's called crude. Bless you. All right. It uses for oil. Use it for lubricants.
Without refining.
Oh, without refining it? Yeah, I know. That's how you get Vaseline. Plastic is a petroleum-based product. The UN began economic sanctions in order to Iraq out of Kuwait. Iraq's refusal was viewed as a threat to global oil supplies. Balderdash. But that's what they said. That's just no. Canada has oil. Lots of oil. Mexico. All our coastal waters. Anyway. But that's what we said, so in we go. Our objectives in the Persian Gulf are clear. Our goal is defined and familiar. Iraq must withdraw completely, immediately, and without condition. Kuwait's legitimate government must be restored. security and stability of the Persian Gulf must be assured. American citizens must be protected. These goals are not ours alone. They have been endorsed by the UN Security Council 5 times in as many weeks. That looks much different than us just going in, or any one country just going in. This also helps you in the court of world appeal. You know, well, the world opinion, excuse me. So, okay, if we're all in on this, then it's okay. It's Iraq against the world. George Herbert Walker Bush, 1990. All right. Those of you who like battles and plans, there you go. A United States-led international coalition of 500,000 troops. Coalition forces quickly won the war, and Iraq was liberated. 101st Airborne, French Brigade, a cavalry regiment, tanks. Who else? Syrians and Egyptians and Saudis. And they went all liberated. It does not hurt. Like Kuwait is desert. They're relatively flat. It's not mountainous like Vietnam or Korea. It's not a lush tropical forest like Vietnam or Korea or Okinawa or anywhere else. And it's not heavily urban, which then factors in the civilian population. If you have to go to war, aside from the heat and sand getting everywhere, not a bad place to have it. Yes, I can.
Oh, make sure Hunter.
Thank you.
He thinks he might have one. Just like
As Mary scooches to the right.
it was some sort of.
All right.
Yeah, there's still other diseases other than COVID, dude.
No, nowhere in the world. It is. All right. No work. There we go. Saddam Hussein remained in power, and Iraq was ordered to destroy all their chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, their WMDs, weapons of mass destruction.
I thought biological weapons were illegal for all,
They are.
but okay.
That's an excellent response.
Well, just the way
no.
the way it's worded sounded like everybody else had them, but we're forcing just them to get rid of ours. But
Right.
okay, but it's illegal for everybody.
Right. Okay, I don't know the stats anymore, but it is still illegal. It is illegal to place landmines. Landmines are illegal per the Geneva Convention, per the UN. The landmines are illegal. A decade ago, we were the world's #1 supplier. Yes. Well, an IUD tends to be man-made, not manufactured.
Yeah, but it's
It is. No, I'm talking about. I get it. I'm talking about like high quality. Yeah. Yeah.
like a IUD is still like.
Excuse me?
You said they were illegal, but
Nuclear weapons are not. No, okay, that's an excellent. That's an excellent point. Nuclear weapons are not illegal, or else we're in trouble. But you have to get permission and consent. Like, you have to be the right person to be allowed to have them. It's an exclusive club.
If it's from, like, if it's a country holding it, does they get permission from other countries? Okay.
They would go to one of the 8 countries who are allowed to have them, and we would keep them safe.
What are the 8 countries?
United States, Great Britain, Russia, France, China, Pakistan, India, and North Korea. Oh, no, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, not Japan, Israel. Not Japan, Israel. Because they lost World War II, and they attacked us, and we were salty in the conditions. They can't have, they have a defensive only army. That's all they're allowed to have.
Oh, one of my neighbors is Jewish, and she wants to go to like the with the vets program through the Israel.
In Israel,
Yeah, and she's like,
doesn't everybody?
yeah.
Every 18, yeah, they had like 2 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause my cousin moved there and he was like, probably 20 when he moved there, but he had to, right when he got there, he had to join the military.
Why did he move?
Since large-scale conflict between nations is rare, so large-scale, big-scale world wars between, now, this is a true-ish statement. Developed countries have not engaged in this. Developing countries in Africa are engaging in this. So it kind of depends on to whom you're speaking. But even less of them. Most of the fighting now is internal. All right. Individuals unaffiliated with governments or affiliated with governments have formed terrorist groups. There is state-sponsored terrorism. That's what BTS is.
They have a cool.
That's Korean state-sponsored terrorism.
It's sponsored by the.
Slogan. Ah! They're what? Robots?
Yeah.
You ever seen those kids that like train to like go in their building to be a group like that?
Yeah, they get all kinds of plastic surgery and there's like.
Look, did you see that?
All right, we're good. I'm sorry I went down that road.
Look how white they're like all of the rest of the people in Korea.
They wear makeup though.
Yeah.
But like, they're like,
What did I
He didn't say it that way. He was just making a point that if you pancake enough, you can be kabuki. All right. So what you're saying is a man in a kabuki mask. All right. Roman Catholic militants, the Irish Republican Army, conducted bombings to protest North Ireland's status as part of the UK. This goes back to the 1300s. We don't have time. Just understand what we are pivoting from now is the type of war to which history tends to be most familiar. State-sponsored war, numbers of countries against others. These are sometimes sponsored by a nation, sometimes lied and said that it's not sponsored by a nation. More times than not, these are independent actors who are displeased with how their nation, their state is handling something. So they take matters into their own hands. This is all about getting the English out of Ireland. And again, I don't have time. An estimated 1,800 to 3,700 people were killed by just the IRA from 1960 to 1990 in Ireland and in England. If you go back to the beginning of the IRA, which is the turn of the 20th century, when there was an all-out war against England, which is ultimately how Ireland gained their independence. Thousands of lives were spilled. If you go back further to the famine and how the English took all the food away from them, so they could either leave or die. So it's not just these 1,800, but these are directly tied to this sort of, what's the word? Not like Black Ops, but it's clandestine militant groups. No, because they're working for they're organized. Like these are all organized groups. No, they're not hired. It's more or less, yeah. It's not quite the word, but it's better. Another example, yes, the Basque separatists in the Basque region of Spain. They have used bombings and terrorist activities because they want to be separate from Spain. As does Catalonia want to be separate from Spain. So like Barcelona would be the capital of Catalonia. They want to be separate because they're the banking center where all the money in Spain is. And they're tired of carrying the rest of the country. That's Portugal. I don't care. No, I don't know. But these are all different groups who want to be independent. And this probably, well, the Basques go back a long time, but a lot of this goes back to Franco. Remember, from 35 to 72, Franco was a fascist ruler of Spain. And remember, fascists tend to not like to listen to opposition voices, and they tend to go out of their way to silence them. So I'm sure there were a lot of people who, once they got a chance to use their voice, used it loud. Just masks and all black, so you can't see who they are. Since '68, 820 people have been killed by the ETA, with hundreds injured and dozens kidnapped. That group.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Basque separatist group. Yeah, and I'm sure it's a Spanish translation. Thank you. The expanded global presence of the United States and support of modernization has fostered national and religious reactions. Oh, look, there's the word, to American hegemony. I love when that happens. I feel so validated. I'm going to go with that's North Korea. I'm going to go out on a limb here and looking at that script. That's North Korea. Down with the USA. This is somewhere we all know. Mentira. Interesting. Squeeze in Mexico, I think. And then that's lovely. All right. So see, everybody doesn't love us, but we don't love everybody. It all works out. September, this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the very first time I've ever taught this as a historical event. Like this very moment. Like I'd never seen this on a slide. I've never talked about it other than the moment of silence. It's really weird. It's just weird to me. That 20 years ago. Yeah, I know, but it doesn't seem that way to me. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. Now we're 9/11. All right. September 11, 2001, militant Muslim radicals attacked the United States using hijacked passenger planes as guided missiles. They flew planes in the building. Coming from Logan. And there you go. All right. Well, one was, and one ended up in the Pentagon. They don't know where this one was going. They don't know. They don't know.
It's probably
DC, but you don't know.
it was heading straight for us. We know in DC.
Okay. Until it hits it, you don't know. Stop. You don't know. No, you can hypothesize. You can speculate all you want. It landed in Pennsylvania, so that's its target.
Yes.
Unless you can find a diary or a log or get people to spill the beans. Yeah. So, all right. So I watched this on live TV. Well, I was watching the breaking news. Now, actually, I saw the plane fly live into the second tower on TV. Because at first, everybody, unless I'm sure there are people in DC, but Joe Schmo American thought it was a horrible plane, like it was a plane crash. Because the plane flew into the building. That must have been awful. But when the second plane does it, that's not an accident. And then I just stayed watching TV all day, and I watched it all day. I was substitute. That was 2001. That was my first year in Raleigh. I was substitute teaching, taking classes at State to get my teaching license, and running a Hardee's at PNC Arena at night, so that I could, so I could teach, because that's where the money is. And I just remember, and I didn't take a sub job that day. I just remember watching it all day. Yeah, Sam.
This isn't really a very good question, I don't think. But what was it like? It's like seeing the second plane. Like,
Well, then you're waiting, and then there was a third, and then there was a fourth, and I remember it was quiet. I remember Raleigh was really, really quiet, and I remember the scariest sight I've ever seen in my life was the air full of planes, because they shut down every airport and made the planes all stay in the sky. So you try and figure out what to do. So I was just sitting there waiting for one to fall. I see you. Well, hopefully this has no bearing on you, but I know for a fact that this is why I hate to fly. Because I had no problem. When I was in the Navy, I flew home. I flew all over the place. I hate getting on a plane. Every time I watch a plane land at the airport, or every time I watch a plane take off at the airport, I'm waiting for it to blow up. That's what this did.
I know it wasn't that tragic, but why was the Pentagon not as waterproof?
It was a big building because I mean, if you were in DC, or if you lost somebody at the Pentagon, it's a big deal. But not trying to put tragedy into scope or scale, but there's nothing that is going to top that.
They were the World Trade Centers.
Yeah, and if you get a chance to go to the memorial. If you get a chance to go,
It's like really big.
go. It is big, and it's just. I haven't been to that one yet. In the one room with all the pictures, that's tough. But it does a really good job of showing the timeline. And it's an amazing piece of work that they did. But 3,000 people died. 25 countries. Like, yeah, it wasn't just Americans who died here. It was the world. Yeah, this was the World Trade Center. Anyway, actually, that's how many were killed.
Oh.
2,996. All right. Counting the Pentagon and the airplanes.
The Pentagon is also built in like layers.
Yeah, it's like 5 rows deep or something
Yeah,
like that.
so
Yeah.
like the ones in the inner layer, like they might have been trapped, but they wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah, we're gonna skip that slide. That's a stupid.
It's got 5 sides and I think 4 layers, and it penetrated one side about.
It's
2 and-
like it's like a baklava.
Yeah, it
It's just
penetrated
layers and layers of
2
pastry. I
and
mean,
it penetrated about 1.5
Yeah.
layers.
Planes flew into World Trade Center towers in New York City, which subsequently collapsed. We know that. Another into the Pentagon. That's right here. And see there, you can see the hallway.
Yeah.
And that's what actually kept it from being worse. Is physics. You know, if you ever watch, I'm going to tie this into sports. If you ever watch open wheel racing, which is so much better than NASCAR, when Indy cars or Formula One cars hit a wall, they are designed to explode. They are designed to break into hundreds of thousands of pieces, so all that energy goes with it.
That's why there's like spaces. in
Yes, because
It's designed to like twist.
energy has to go somewhere. So if the energy leaves the vehicle, it's not thrust upon the driver.
No. The Pentagon is also big.
The terrorist organization Al Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, was responsible.
How long did it take them?
Thing.
I don't remember. Not long. Again, this is so wrought with irony.
We put them in charge, right?
We gave them weapons to fight the Russians. The Al Qaeda is an outgrowth of the Mujahideen, who fought the Russians in Afghanistan. There's an excellent Tom Hanks movie called Charlie Wilson's War. It's one of my favorite Tom Hanks movies of all time, and it's an excellent Cold War movie. But it's rated R for a reason, because the guy he's portraying, Texas Representative Charlie Wilson, was a womanizing, hard drinking man. So there's like his whole staff are all like good looking women by design. They're all smart, but none of them, and so there's a lot of that in the movie. But how he got that war funded is amazing. The amount of money he pumped into that group to fight the Russians. And then when they won, he went back and said, no, we need like, instead of having 300 million, like he got almost $1 billion out of a $3 million initial thing over time. It's really cool to watch how it's done. Then he goes back and says, okay, now let's take $3 million and go build some schools. They're like, schools, why? And so America leaves, like they're trying to do now. Our biggest issue, and most countries' biggest issues, the imperialist countries when they leave, or liberating countries when they leave, is they leave so quickly they just pull a vacuum. This is when you need to actually spend money, infrastructure, make them not hate other people, and make them self-sufficient, perhaps. Yes, now you can go.
Well,
Oh, okay.
Why did they feel the need to hit?
Because they're the 2 biggest buildings in America. What a better way to make a statement. Remember, terrorism is all about scaring people and making a statement. And it's New York. It's those two buildings. They were also going after Washington, so they kind of knew where they were going. It wouldn't have had the same effect. It probably, you know, it's
They probably thought the plan would go deeper into it.
yeah. Sorry.
They probably thought it would destroy it so that the US won't be able
Well,
to-
that's poor. That's also not knowing your government, because you know it that there are people that set and hidden all over the place in this country. No one's ever when the president speaks, there's always one member of the cabinet not there, and that's by design.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah. Yep. All right. Yes.
I was gonna say, when you're talking about the vacuum, isn't that kind of similar to what happened with decolonization in Africa?
Yeah, they were only there to build stuff for come on, for their industry, and then all right. Al-Qaeda's hatred toward the United States included resentment of America's economic, military, and cultural power, and support for Israel. That's always in here. Yes. It may have been one of his many recordings. Yes.
I was gonna say, when I was younger, I read this book called The Genius Files, and the first scene is this dude goes out. I don't know why I was reading this as a child. It was Dan Gutman.
Let's explain as much. But continue.
He goes out. He goes out for a smoke break, and that's when like it was either the Pentagon or the Twin Towers. I forget which one got hit by the plane. So he was outside smoking. So he was okay, but like, and then like I don't remember what happened after that. But it was a good book.
Isn't there an I Survived?
Yeah.
Yeah, because my youngest has read all of them. His favorite one is the tsunami. That's his favorite. Yeah, actually, okay, that's his favorite one. All
Is
right.
that the one in Japan?
Yes.
Yeah.
God knows it did not cross our minds to attack the towers, but after the situation became unbearable and we witnessed the injustice and tyranny of the American-Israeli alliance, I thought about it.
Well, he did more than think about them.
Yeah. October 2001, NATO invaded Afghanistan to capture bin Laden, destroy Al-Qaeda, and overthrow the Taliban, the leadership of the country. Again, not unilateral. The worst part about that day is Trinity has a lot of alums working in New York. Two of the people in my wedding I went to college with lived in New York, and cell service was done for 24 hours. Like I couldn't call. I had no idea who was alive, like nothing. So that was probably the worst part. Was not knowing who was alive and who wasn't. And I just remember it was just it was just wild. How you doing? All right. United States President George W. Bush declared a war on terror, proposing that countries with ties to terror could be preemptively attacked by U.S. This is moving down the unilateral path. The following countries: Afghanistan, and then there's a new axis of evil, to coin a phrase: Iraq, Iran, North Korea, and then there are beyond the axis of evil: Cuba, Libya, and Syria. I don't know. Typically, beyond means worse. To me, typically, but they're just others. Cuba, Libya, and Syria. Cuba. The dumbest place you still can't go to. Everybody in the world can go, not yet.
But you can.
They were good in the Obama administration. I think Trump backed off on it.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Oh, I went on a cruise in 2019, and we went honestly, I'm surprised they were able to get that close to it. It was definitely only a couple miles off. We could see it. It was Cuba, but it seems like they were probably out of international waters.
Right.
So I've seen it. But
Now, if you go to England or Ireland or anywhere else in the world, and you go to a travel agency, there are package deals to Cuba. They all go to Cuba, just not us. Which also means our businesses in the 50s and 60s, 70s, 80s couldn't sell to them either. All right. Okay, so there in this picture are two Republicans I would have voted for. Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice for president. All right. And by this just in, not a Republican. All right, nor my Democrat. Bush began making the case to invade Iraq, claiming Hussein had links to Al-Qaeda and weapons of mass destruction because they didn't get him out the first time. His dad failed. And this Bush doesn't want to be like Adams and fail. So there's weapons there. Without UN approval and with limited international support, the United States invades Iraq. America is a friend to the people of Iraq. Our demands are directed only at the regime that enslaves them and threatens us. When these demands are met, the first and greatest benefit will come to the Iraqi men, women, and children. That's so easy to do. Oh, again, orange supported it. Blue opposed it. Yellow were like, I'm not voting. Okay. I couldn't get the graphic to change colors and work, so I just remembered it.
If you don't vote, that's basically when you voted for doing.
If you don't vote, it is kind of like you're voting for it, but it's also letting you know that these people need stuff from both sides. Yeah. Baghdad fell quickly. Hussein was eventually found and executed by his own people for crimes against humanity. A lot of these rulers, again, they are authoritarian rulers. They are fascists. They squash opposition. They rig elections. They silence voices. They control things. And if you speak out, if you are anti them, you are quieted one way or another. There he is. Dead.
So, literally,
Here, there he is, dead.
What year did they kill him? I feel like I remember that on the news.
No, you remember Bin Laden.
The Nara, yeah, I remember that.
That was
It's
like
like, why is it such a big
2011,
deal that they just killed this dude? And then my parents told me, I don't know.
It was like he comes out, he speaks, and then turns around and goes back. Bombs. The Iraqi insurgents attacked U.S. troops and rival factions fought each other for control of Iraq. Iraq held democratic elections in 2004. The Iraq War divided the United States and the world. Many questioned Bush's motivations for and management of the war. And oh, look, oops, no WMDs. You know, White House says search found no banned weapons. Okay, there you go. Okay. In 2011, President Barack Obama authorized naval SEAL CIA mission into Pakistan, led to the killing of Osama bin Laden. They're watching it live. Like they're watching it live on cameras on the soldiers. From the Situation Room.
What was the CIA supposed to do?
CIA?
Yeah.
They're the secret people, man. They get the intel and the SEALs.
But like, what were they trying to find out?
They went and got Osama bin Laden.
It was a murder.
Kind of. Not kinda.
No.
Okay, fine. You'll make it sound better. It was an assassination. They took out the guy responsible for 9/11. You're not going to get any sympathy from a lot of Americans. I'm just saying.
If you
I'm,
got any sympathy, I'd be surprised.
why? If you believe in forgiveness of all people, you forgive them, right?
And forgiveness.
You don't have to love them, but you got to forgive them.
Is he squatting down on the floor?
He's on a chair. The president's getting a chair. The president's getting a chair. He's leaning forward, huh?
is that Joe Biden?
Yeah, that's Biden.
Is that Hillary Clinton?
That's Hillary Clinton. Yeah, she was Secretary of State. He was Vice President. No, he doesn't. You know who President Biden looks like now? Have you ever watched Jeff Dunham, the ventriloquist comedian with the different dudes?
Oh, yeah.
Joe Biden looks like Walter. His old guy puppet. Trust me. Go side by side.
He looks like the,
He looks like Walter, Jeff Dunham's puppets.
you know,
All right.
the Muppets, like the old bird.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Oh, Sam?
Yeah.
Sam the Eagle? Yeah. All right.
Does not look like that old dude. That guy looks wrong. I don't think
Joe
Joe Biden.
Biden looks like that dude right across here.
We already have a comparison.
They do have a comparison photo. All right. All right. All right.
so photo.
This one does?
It looks like the Windows, like original, like.
Oh, like the wallpaper?
Yeah, just Photoshop the cows and helicopters.
Wait, is that actually real?
That
The war in Afghanistan ends. Taliban remain a threat to democratically elected government of that country. Yes, there is grass in Afghanistan.
Why is there 3 suns? Look at where the light's falling on the field.
That could be.
Clouds. 3 suns. All right. The destabilization of your, I don't. Oh, that's because that's where Osama bin Laden was. So that now war ends in 2014. Oh, by the way, we still have troops there. For now, Biden's pulling them out. Much to the disappointment of a number of Afghanis. The destabilization of Iraq led to the emergence of Al Qaeda in Iraq, now called ISIL. I am not calling it that. You can. I'm calling it ISIL. Why? Because this validates their existence. This gives them a state and validates their existence.
It's actual.
It's because it's the Levant. It's different things. Trust me. And they hate it. They hate being called.
Then we should call them that if they hate it.
What are we gonna
Make
do?
a difference.
Dude, the Kurds are over there. We're good. Kurds are motivated. All right. The destabilization. Okay, this is Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. He's the former leader. The remains of al-Zarqawi's house in 2006. Told you.
Yeah.
Pick a window. This is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
His house.
Yeah.
No, he was just taken out during the Trump administration, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's the guy.
Yep. And he was the leader of this group, the big mastermind, the big cheese. Yeah,
Was that the guy that got hit by a missile when we tried to get in the plane?
I think so.
Okay.
It's like, oh, with the car.
They want to establish an Islamic caliphate. Remember, go back to our gunpowder. Go back, no, to the unit from today's quiz. Today's Kahoot. They opposed NATO. They opposed the EU. They opposed the Arab League. They even opposed Al Qaeda, saying that their Islam is wrong.
What type of?
It's- This has got to be hardcore Shia. It's got to be. Every religion has factions, splinters, fundamentalist groups who see things one way and one way only. We're going to go with BH and then Sam F. Yes.
So the black is what ISIS wants to be the caliphate, right?
Yes.
Why is it they're the US, Australia, India, and all that? It's like stuff that
Because are they an Arab faith?
the US.
That part of the United States has a large enough Muslim population. Buffalo, New York has probably the largest Muslim population per capita in America. Detroit, Chicago, Michigan. Think about you got you got Muslim representatives in the House now. So that was their vision.
The Boston Marathon bomber was part of ISIL. Right.
But they don't think they're doing it right. Obama initially underestimated them, referred to them as the JV team. I can hear it. You can hear it saying it. But it has emerged as an international terrorist organization. This is true. Beheadings on YouTube, live, proving a point, capturing soldiers, capturing people and killing them live to prove what they were going to do to us all. Again, yeah, that's what terrorists do. The attacks in Paris tied to ISIL. And this just shows you all the different places where it was taking place. Paris bombings. These are the location of all ISIL terrorist attacks in this part of the world, as well as Indonesia. Yes, sir.
So this is kind of a review question, but what's the difference between Sunni and Shiism?
Who can teach it?
Shia is like the bloodline.
Yeah, if you are going to be a teacher of the word of Islam, you have to be direct descendant of Muhammad, the bloodline of Muhammad. In the Sunni faith, any knowledgeable person, anyone who understands the Quran can be a teacher.
Sunni is also like right?
Yes, and there are many, many, many more Sunnis across the world, but most of Iran is Shia.
Or the Shias like kind of the hardcore, like
Yeah, they're fundamental.
When were these organizations like started?
What, Sunni and Shia?
No, like that, like.
Terrorist organizations like this?
Like, how
Once,
far back is-
well, yeah, okay, well, like, it depends, well, in Europe, they're old. The Red Brigade in Italy goes back to the 1800s, the IRA goes. These are all gonna be post-World War II, post the birth of Israel. That's sort of like the tipping point for all of these, and then decolonization, and then, again, after the Cold War, that whole Americanized, westernized, this stuff, they don't like that either. Yes, sir. Or they're just a strategy.
Wait, so I kind of thought about like, you know, that attack on like Iranian embassy in London?
Yeah,
Who was that?
on the Iranian embassy?
Or it was in the Iranian, like, some like.
I can't remember. It may probably tied to them. Obama helped create a coalition of 60 plus nations to fight them, mostly airstrikes against positions in Syria and Iraq, but again, getting worldwide support. The blue are joint task force, the highlighter yellow are people individually fighting them either because they're in their neighborhood or because they want to get rid of them. That's, yes, yeah. Operation Inherent Resolve. Coalition forces have conducted 11,000 plus sorties. The U.S. has conducted 8,800 of those. The rest of the world, 2,700. Wow. I don't care.
Is the rest of the world just mostly France and Britain?
Well, whoever has the capable air forces. Yeah, Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah. Israel. The war on terror, and especially the destabilization of Southwest Asia, has some questioning the credibility as a superpower. Everybody burns lines. Terrorism and Russia's aggressive foreign policy continue to redefine that new world order. Some are concerned about a Cold War 2.0. I don't think that's a crazy thought in light of this week. The pipeline. In light of what was alleged to have occurred in our last election and in this election, in light of just his very nature. It would seem from a political standpoint. I don't know the man. From a political standpoint, the Cold War is not. First of all, it's the better of the two options. Let's state that right now. A Cold War is always better than a hot one. Especially since you guys are, 3 years away from draft eligibility.
You like get rid of draft eligibility at 35, right?
Yeah, when you're 35, you can no longer be drafted. Russia's support of Assad in Syria and Russia's anger towards the expansion of NATO because, they want in, that's Ukraine. And other people want in because collective security is collective security. And again, remember, what's Russia's reason for this historically? Contextually? Why does Russia want this land?
Farmland, right?
No.
warm water.
No.
It's a warm water.
No. No, they left a buffer. Keep people that far away from me. It was farmland for Germany. Keep people that far away from me. Make them have to travel that much further to get to me. It is a self-defense thing. There's a book about there's two books that I've read bits and pieces of, and I was going to read them both if I was still doing AP Hug. One is called 10 Maps That Explain the World. The other one is called Prisoners of Geography. It talks about how certain histories are truly shaped by the geography, and one of them talks about Russia. Oh, speaking of Ukraine, in 2013, Russia annexed Crimea, down here, formerly controlled by Ukraine, and continues to support pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine.
So when they had all of the riots in Ukraine,
Yep.
lots of civilians were killed.
Yep.
And they were all opposed to that one guy.
Yeah, and then Russia was alleged to have actually brought in thugs to start riots.
Yeah.
Or like those were troops in civilian clothes to go start riots. Yeah.
Have I heard that or recently?
Moving on. Sorry, I'm not taking the bait. All right. I like my job. Oh. So
Is that it?
that's it. So, where we are now, where you are now in your world, is how we as Americans negotiate our place in the world, our place in those two regions, what's going to matter to us, and what steps we can take moving forward to ensure, well, you get to wake up tomorrow. So the remainder of this unit is going to be looking at how we address these issues politically, how we handle the environmental impacts, how the use of science and technology are going to alter things. And so it's much more bigger picture as we approach the rest of the course. So tomorrow, I'll post this tonight. So tomorrow, I'll see you at 10:30 if you want to be there. I'll ask for 3 volunteers. We will parse 3 DBQs. That should be sufficient. And then I'll begin reading and getting you people all ready. Remember, 1 week from today, 1 week from yesterday, I hope to be finished, so that 1 week from today, any and all remaining questions or anything you want to do, we can do in class. Or you guys just need to huddle and cry, I don't care. But we'll worry about it Wednesday when we get here. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow, maybe, and definitely Friday.